The Galactic Union Combat Academy had seen many strange things in its 400-year history. It had never seen anything quite like Mara Ellison. She stood in the center of Sparring Hall 7, 5 feet 4 inches of quiet muscle, copper-brown skin damp with exertion, dark hair pulled back in a practical knot. Around her, cadets from 17 different species filled the observation benches. Thalvri with their iridescent membrane wings folded tight. Quarren, stout and grayscaled, murmuring in their clicking dialect. Vessen, tall and elegant, their bioluminescent markings cycling in patterns that communicated amusement. The amusement was directed at her. Again, said Cadet Drethix Voss, circling her slowly. He was Kelvari, 7 feet tall, 4 upper limbs, exoskeletal plating that could deflect standard energy bolts. The Academy's highest-ranked first year. He had not lost a sparring match in 2 cycles. Again, the little Deathworlder falls down. Mara was, in fact, on one knee. Her shoulder ached where his secondary arm had clipped her. She breathed steadily, measured, and said nothing. That, too, seemed to entertain Drethix. You know what I find fascinating? He addressed the gallery now, playing to the crowd. Humans are always talking about how dangerous their homeworld is. Predators. Radiation. Poison fauna. Extreme gravity variation. He gestured grandly at Mara. And yet here she is. 3rd time on the floor this session. Laughter rippled through parts of the gallery. Not all. The Quarren cadets had gone still and watchful in the particular way that meant they were calculating something. Mara rose. She rose the way things rise when they have been doing it their whole lives, without drama, without announcement. Like the tide. She reset her stance, weight low, guard relaxed, eyes tracking Drethix's 4 hands with the specific quality of attention that field biologists develop when studying ambush predators. 3rd time on the floor, she said agreeably. First time you've landed the same technique twice. Drethix paused. I've been counting, she continued. Her voice was mild. Conversational. Your left secondary always telegraphs before a cross-strike. Hip rotation, half a second early. Your dominant right overextends when you're confident you've won positioning. She tilted her head. You were confident just now. Silence from the gallery. Drethix's mandibles clicked. A human studying my movement? Something between contempt and curiosity. You've been on the floor. Learning, she said. We call it learning. He lunged. What happened next, 3 cadets would later attempt to describe in their personal logs with varying degrees of success. The Vessen cadet Lyeth wrote, she went somewhere his arms weren't. I don't fully understand how. The angles were wrong for her size. The Quarren cadet Mus wrote, she used the momentum. Not redirected, consumed. Like a drain. Drethix himself, in his medical report, wrote nothing, because he was unconscious. The sequence lasted approximately 2.3 seconds. Mara caught his overextended right arm at the wrist on his lunge, stepped into him rather than away, a choice so counterintuitive that his other 3 limbs were already completing their programmed arc into empty space, pivoted using his own forward force, applied rotational pressure to his elbow joint at the precise angle that Kelvari exoskeleton does not articulate, and introduced his center of mass to the floor at a speed the mat was only barely designed to absorb. Drethix hit the ground with a sound like a crate of ceramics dropped from a transport bay. He did not get up. Mara stood over him. Breathing normally. She looked, if anything, mildly thoughtful, the expression of someone who has confirmed a hypothesis. The gallery was completely silent. Then, from the entrance to Sparring Hall 7, came a slow sound. Clapping. Instructor Kale Veyron walked in from the doorway, arms folded, one hand raised in measured applause. He was human, one of only 3 human instructors at the academy, and widely regarded as the most terrifying, which cadets found confusing until they understood that terrifying and dangerous were different categories, and Veyron was the second kind. He was 43. He moved like he was 30 and thought like he was 60. His file, which senior cadets sometimes pulled up on a dare, listed 17 prior combat deployments, 4 commendations for action under conditions that had no official classification, and a note from the Union Medical Board that read, simply, "See attached, do not attempt to replicate." He stopped beside the unconscious Drethix and looked down at him with the mild interest of a man examining an interesting rock. "Cadet Voss," he said pleasantly, "will be fine. Mild joint stress, bruised pride, bruised exoskeleton." He looked up at the gallery. For those taking notes, and you should be taking notes, what Cadet Ellison just demonstrated is called dynamic load conversion. It is a technique developed on Earth approximately 600 years ago. It requires your opponent to be larger than you, faster than you, and completely certain they have already won. His tone did not change. In other words, it requires an opponent who stopped learning the moment they started winning. Nobody moved. Veyron walked a slow circuit around Mara, not inspecting her, acknowledging her, which was different. He spoke to the gallery. 3 falls, he said. I was watching from the door. Did anyone count how many times Cadet Voss used an identical approach after the first fall? He waited. 4. He used the same dominant right setup 4 times because it worked 3 times, and working is comfortable. He let that land. Comfort is a trap. On a Deathworld, comfort gets you eaten. He stopped. Looked at Mara directly. Cadets from high-stability homeworlds, he said, learn combat as a series of techniques. Memorize, execute, win. It works against known opponents. Against catalogued threats. A pause. Earth does not produce catalogued threats. Earth produces adapters. Everything on that planet either learns to handle novel situations or becomes something else's meal. Humans, and here something flickered briefly behind his eyes, something that wasn't quite a smile but was adjacent to one, are the ones who made it. He turned back to the gallery. Cadet Ellison did not win that exchange when she threw Cadet Voss. She won it during Fall 1, when she started memorizing his pattern. Falls 2 and 3 were data collection. He raised an eyebrow. How many of you, when you hit the floor, are collecting data? Or are you just waiting to get back up? Lyeth, the Vesson cadet, would write later that the silence after that question was the kind that changes the way you think about something permanently. Mara, for her part, crouched beside Drethix and checked his pulse with 2 fingers, matter of fact, no performance in it. He's stable, she reported. He is, Veyron agreed. Help him to the medical bay when he wakes. And Cadet Ellison, she looked up. Next session. Full contact. You and me. A ripple through the gallery. Somewhere a Thalvery cadet made a sound that translated, roughly, as "oh no." Mara considered this for a moment. You're going to use something I haven't seen before, she said. Not a question. Veyron smiled then, fully, briefly, like a door opening and closing. That is the point, he said. Welcome to the real curriculum. He walked out. Mara looked back down at Drethix, who was beginning to stir with a low, confused clicking sound. She pulled him carefully into the recovery position the way field medics do on planets where you can't afford to lose anyone, even people who've been trying to embarrass you for 40 minutes. In the gallery, the Quarren cadet finally wrote the last line of his notes. Humans do not fight to win. They fight to learn. The winning is just what happens while they're doing it.